All right, good morning. Hopefully you're up and awake, getting things done. It is kind of early. It's a little after 5, about 5:20, something like that. So I got to bed a little bit late last night. I think I was in bed at 11:15, almost, so probably asleep by 11:30, hopefully. Not really sure. I think I was tossing and turning till midnight, but anyways, yeah, so got up at 5:20, or excuse me, 5:15. So I just came right out here, started working on a video. So, anyways, hopefully you're up, getting things done, and making things happen for yourself. So yesterday I did not do a video. Yesterday was uh, kind of a different day. It was a special day. It was National Ice Cream Day, and so hopefully you got your scoops in, and I did definitely. So, anyways, yeah, it was kind of an interesting day. It was a long day. Yesterday was the completion, well, time frame wise, of my first milestone. So the way I plan my days, weeks, months, years is a little bit different than most people. So I don't do quarters. I do 3 milestones and throughout the year. And the reason I do that is because those each one of those milestones is 18 weeks long, and each one of those 18 weeks is broken up into 3-week chunks. And I feel like that 3-week chunk is easier to kind of reflect and course correct back. Not only is it easier, but I get I'm reflecting and course correcting 1 week before everybody else that's planning month to month. So I actually get in those 18 weeks I get a lot more time to reflect. I think 50% more time to reflect basically is what it works out to, which is or something like that, or maybe I don't know, maybe it's not that much. But anyways, the point being, it's probably 1/3. I get 1/3 more reflection time, or time to course correct and reflect and assess things. So that being said, it was a very interesting, you know, what I call end of a mini milestone, which is one of those 3-week chunks, and that 18-week chunk. Because where I started out with 18 weeks ago, where I am today, very different. Very, very different than where I would have predicted, and where where um, I thought I would be. It's interesting, right? Steering the ship. It's very interesting. The path that it's taking. It's getting me to where I want to be, because I've done. I set my 1 year goals and fantasy, right? But I haven't done 3 years, 5 years, or even 10 years out, which I need to do. But I haven't done those things. But I know, like where like my 10-year fantasy is. I just haven't incorporated it into my planning process. But overall, the past 18 weeks, you know, have financially haven't been really good at all. But they have, on other levels, I have grown exponentially. I mean, no joke, exponentially. 18 weeks ago, I was doing zero, literally zero networking. I had no intention of networking. I had no concept of the value of building a network. And now, 18 weeks later, I've been on LinkedIn since 2008, like early 2008. So I don't even know when it started. I'd have to look that up. But I've been on it since almost the beginning. And so in 2024, so 8 to 18, and so that's what, I don't know how many years later, 16 years later, right? I uh, I had less than 100 connections, and I never posted, never commented. Probably looked at LinkedIn on average over the past 16 years. I've probably looked at it 20 times over the entire 16 years. I just saw no value in it. Anyways, now I have 180 connections. I've more than doubled my connections and those connections, the majority of them are good, solid connections and people. Um, there's a lot of people that reach out now. It's interesting. I started really engaging. As I started engaging for Key to a Maze on other social media platforms. I started doing that on LinkedIn personally, and I look back and it's like, man, holy shit! Like I have moved that needle. There was no needle to begin with, but I have moved it significantly, and it's been intentional, um, with where I want to be and where I want to go and what I want to do with my life, which is really pretty amazing to me to watch play out and happen. I have um, I've read multiple books in the past 18 weeks, and I know probably a lot of people probably don't really think that's a big deal, but I do. I do. I think I've read three, maybe four books. I'm trying to think how many books. I have to look back. I didn't look back on that, but I think I've read at least. I mean, I don't really know if I count this as a book because it's pretty thin, and I didn't even finish the whole book. I'm three-quarters of the way through, but I've kind of went through it. But it's, you know, it's it's a pretty straightforward, easy book. So I don't know if yeah, I guess it is a book. It's a very actually pretty informative book. But anyways, between choose your enemies wisely, marketing to the affluent, exponential organizations, um, yeah, sell like crazy. I mean, there's a lot of books that I've read. Even Blue Ocean Strategy. So there's a lot of books that I've read, and pretty interesting. So yeah, so it was an interesting day yesterday, and I feel like it was something that I needed. I was drifting the past 3 weeks, and I felt like I was drifting. That's the other thing too. It's like I look back even on the past week. I was really like wasn't getting up early as much. I think once or twice last week I got up before 6, and just having a hard time with the week, just like in my head. And then I look back on the week and I was like, okay, I actually got a lot more done than I thought. I went to a networking event Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday. I had a meeting in Harvard Square for 2 hours from someone that I met from a networking event from the week before. Then I went to a networking event, and then from there I went right to work. That was and then Friday I had a great networking event. It was like what I mean. And then Thursday I was supposed to go to an event and I didn't, and I kind of was feeling burnt out, so I didn't go. But the point is I got a lot of those things done. And don't let anybody tell you networking is not work. It is work. It is absolutely 100% work. So, anyways, I'm going to check and make sure this is recording. All right, still going. Cool. So, a lot of progress, a lot of growth, and a lot of changes with that growth. To be honest, personal life, I've started to realize significantly what I want out of my life personally, out of my partner, all of these things. And it's like, um, just place I wouldn't have thought would be even just 18 weeks ago. I mean, I got up this morning and, I got up, my alarm went off at 4:30 or 4:20. I didn't get up to that alarm. The 4:50 alarm I did get up at, even though it was less than 6 hours of sleep. Um, and I did lay in bed and just thought for a few minutes, but I was like, I feel pretty good this morning. I was not feeling that the past few weeks because I felt like I was drifting or directionless, but I wasn't. It was really interesting. It was like I was having a tough few weeks, but I felt like I was just like my course was here, and I was just kind of just meandering over here somewhere, or over here, or whatever. But I actually wasn't. I think I've been staying very clear and focused. One of the things I've realized is that, I created a business 5 years ago, and I created that business on, you know, out of just kind of just being pushed in a direction, pushed, like I was leaving real estate. I'd left real estate and I was trying to figure out something to do. And I started off my journey to having a virtual reality business was pretty crazy. It was like I went from having um, a real estate, like development business to doing a mobile app, and then that, and realizing that I was on the right track, but I didn't have the right connections and I didn't have the right knowledge at that time. No connections, no knowledge, no awareness. But I created a mobile app. It's like I had a very small team, and I created a really good mobile app. And I mean, up until 6 months ago, when whoever was running the servers realized that it was still up and running, it still ran with no updates in like 5-6 years, not one update, and it still loaded and ran perfectly, which is pretty impressive. Anyways, so I did that, and I might even revisit that at some point because it was a pretty there's a lot of key takeaways from that. I wish I had been doing my planning, reflection, and video logging or vlogging process then, because I probably could have learned so much more. Anyways, I pivoted from that to I had this building that I had bought for another business for I was doing restaurant maintenance overnight, and we were growing pretty quickly. I mean, with, like when I started that business, within a few months, we were doing six figures, and it was growing pretty quickly. And I mean, it was like something that I could have easily made a regional business, and I was going to use this building, this physical building, as a hub. And I bought it, and it was ridiculously cheap, to be honest. I mean, it was, it was within Boston, the greater Boston area, and it was like a $200,000 building. And it was an old Napa Auto Parts. It was like, it had a 4,500 square foot footprint, huge roll up door in the back, had a second floor, partial second floor, so it was like another, it was like almost, it was over 7,000 square feet for a building, and it was right in the town center. All this other junk, anyways, but it was a tin can. It was like a that's what I can consider it, as tin can, just corrugated steel with a rubber roof. That was it. But steel building, bones were all there. Anyways, bought that building. That business evaporated very quickly. That's another story. And something that was kind of out of my control, but pushed me in another direction. And then I had this building. It was like, what do I do? And I had just sold a bunch of real estate, and I kind of was like, someone had, my accountant mentioned to me at the time, doing a haunted house, and I love the idea. I was like, yeah, I like that idea. And they made a ton of money, and so I was going to turn the building into that. And then the town didn't like that, and they spent multiple meetings just on me for that. They didn't like the idea of it being seasonal, and then they wanted this full. It's like they didn't want all these people being brought to the town center, which made no sense because the town center was dying, and all of the businesses and the people in the town were upset about it. Anyways, it was a big mess. Point being, I went from that to incorporating escape rooms. Then I found my space in Kenmore Square and kind of went all in on that. The escape rooms didn't work out because the city didn't like it, but they liked the idea of virtual reality, which I was kind of already exploring. So I just went all in on that. But the point being was that I was doing still what I knew, which was physical products, like a physical thing. You know what I mean? It was like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But that was still I didn't know anything about a brick and mortar business. Yeah, I'd worked in restaurants and hospitality before for a long time, and so I knew that end, but didn't really understand the nuances and the concepts of how difficult it was. How difficult this could be. It's like, for me, the building part was easy. The creativity, the building out of it. Even the new technology. The actual hardware. Like wiring things up, building PCs. figuring things out on the software side, not difficult. It was like, okay, this is all doable stuff. I had no clue on marketing. I had no clue on sales. I had no clue on go to market. I had no clue on um, the social media aspect side of things. I mean, there was just so many things I had no clue on. It was like I had one side dialed in. Like I understood that. I understood how to build it. I understood the hospitality side, the customer service side, but I had no clue on this whole other side, which was literally half or more of the business. You build a business, a physical business, or any business, you build that business, they're not going to come. You have the staff, you have the training process, you have the protocols down, you have all of that stuff down. Doesn't mean they're going to just show up and walk through your door in droves. And I've learned that the hard way. And we opened right as COVID hit. Like the day COVID hit is when they gave me my permits to open. When they said, we're shutting the city down, but you can come get your permits, but we don't know when you can open. So that was tough, but it kind of primed me. Everyone, like everybody has that journey, right? And it primed me for the next steps in my evolution in my life, and it's like I look at this and it's like I've been grinding, my entire life. I've been, grinding but enjoying my life, but I look back and it's like at the things, it's like my childhood sucked. It like was a shitstorm. My teen years were a shitstorm. It's like, but I was still there. I was still being me. I was still being William, but I'm not sure, like because of the things that happened in my life, I was like, maybe I'm not being true to me and like who I should be becoming, who I really want to be. And, it's like I was always an inquisitive kid. I loved looking at things, taking things apart, electronics. I mean, it's like um, I was very much into science and technology and all those things, but I was seen as a nerd back then. And not only was I a nerd, but I came to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and as a nerd, and I was very, I would say, introverted in a way, just because of my childhood. Because I had been in an abusive childhood for 7 years of my life. From the time I was 3 to the time I was 10, and so because of that abuse, it kind of left me into a shell. And even though I was there, I still coming to a new school, a public school system that was a tough school system. This was a tough school system. I went from in a school system and where I was being abused in an outside of Cleveland, where I was, I don't think I honestly, I don't think there was any minorities in that school, period. Um, and I came to Cambridge, and honestly, like being a white kid, I was almost a minority. I mean, and it was just like a wow culture shock. It was like there was black, Spanish, Asian, Indian. I mean, you name it. It was just like everyone. It was like, and it was just boom, thrown in this melting pot. And it was pretty amazing to me. It's pretty interesting. And so, anyways, but I got into there, and I tried to be me. I really did, but I was just like, I got bullied every single day. I mean, I had these thick Coke bottle glasses, and my mother at the time, she was going through her own mental stuff, and so but she refused to cut my hair, so I had like the mow or curly haircut, where it was like the bowl haircut, like long bowl haircut with Coke bottle glasses, and it was like, so I looked the part and I played the part. And even though I tried to hold my own, I was getting bullied. My mother would give me different messages. Oh, you can't fight back. Turn your cheek. It's like all these crazy things. It's like I was like, and I was getting physically bullied every day. It's like I played the violin. I played the trumpet. I was loved science, and I was a straight A student. And it's like in a school that all the kids were struggling, and we lived on we lived in it was me, my sister, and my mother, and we were in a 1 bedroom apartment with basically no heat and all this other, and this is after 7 years of growing up. It's basically no heat, welfare. I mean, I remember the blocks of welfare cheese, all of it. And it was, it was tough, but I still loved science, and I still loved the technology that existed. I mean, I remember taking apart Ataris and figuring out what made them work and putting them back together, and taking apart other things, and just crazy. Let me just make sure this thing's rolling. All right, still going. This is gonna be a really long video, I guess, but that's okay. It is a major, it's a major turning point from the reflecting back on the past few weeks. Anyways, so as a kid, it's like I really went through all this tough stuff, and I didn't. And so when I got into construction, I got into construction early on. I mean, I remember being 11 years old, and my grandfather wanting to build a treehouse with myself and my sister. Well, my sister wasn't interested in a treehouse, obviously, but I was. So we started it, and quickly, I learned that at 11 years old, um, either I had more interest in the building side of things, or my grandfather, or I was just better than my grandfather. So, and with hand tools, I ended up building a platform and a treehouse, and it's kind of interesting and fun. It was like these three trees, so it was a triangle tree house, and I just wasn't very high off the ground, probably 8 feet off the ground or something. But and it was just a platform with a ladder, nothing crazy, scrap wood, put it together. But hammer and nails and some screws when I had them with but we were out in the it was out far, not far from the house, but far enough where there was no electricity, and there was no battery powered stuff back then. It was just if you had an electric drill, but no electric saw, no drills, none of that stuff. But tape measure, hammer and nails, a screwdriver, and you know a hand saw to cut plywood, everything. And I was out there diligently making a thing. So, anyways, got into that, and that was kind of what I knew. It was like, oh, I created this. And I wasn't being, you know, I wasn't being bullied for it. But I remember, all these things I created. I tried to make an airplane when I was a kid. I think I was like 12 years old. Um, I I was like, I'm gonna make an airplane. I understand the low pressure, high pressure under the wing thing, and all this other stuff. And my neighbor was renovating a house, and they had these big frames of plastic that they had made with wrapped around thin wood where the windows were. And they when they're done, they're sitting out back. So I took a bunch of them. I think I took 6 of them or something like that, or 8 of them, and put them all together. And me and my, I was gonna use a bicycle to power myself and get lift, similar to the Wright brothers, right? And but no propulsion. And it was, of course, a disaster. But I was 12, but it was fun. But um, of course, I got made fun of for doing that. But at the same time, I didn't, because I built something physical. Anyways, yeah, so I started, doing construction and things like that early on. I mean, 16, jacking up my mother's house that she had bought. Like literally jacking it up with house jacks. Going to the hardware store and asking to rent house jacks, and they were looking at me like I was out of my mind. But I did it, and all the doors, none of the doors closed, right? Because it was all rotted, and so I jacked up the house in certain points. All of a sudden, the doors and windows closed. It was like kind of interesting. Anyways, so going from that to then building a business, a brick and mortar business, which is another thing, was very similar to construction, right? But I didn't know the other sides of it. And I realized, I have a very new respect after 4 years of just how difficult it is. And realistically, like I said, it's been 2 years because COVID hit, and I just didn't know what to do. I just froze, and I went down a rabbit hole of personal growth, but also other things. And it was tough. It was like one of those things. It was like um, last year, this time last year, a little bit of, maybe 14 months ago, my CTO, who had been with me a big chunk of the way, make sure this is still recording. Jeez, 25 minutes in, sorry, but this is a long one. Anyways, 20, like a year in or so, 14 months ago, he it just kind of hit me for whatever reason. I'd been meditating. I had been reading, I've been reading personal growth books like Master Key, The Kabbalion, and some other books, things like that. And it just hit me like just how irresponsible I was being with my life, with my family, with my personal growth, things like that, by having him around. I mean, it was like we were staying, I was staying in Boston till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and just getting up really late and saying, oh, this is what I need to do for the business. And, I was smoking weed a lot more than I normally had been doing, just a lot. And I was like, saw nothing wrong with it because I wasn't doing it during the day, but I was doing it at night. And there was no accountability. And I actually read Man Up by Bedros Keuilian, and it was a pretty interesting book, short book. Not I think it's this size, but probably 3 times as thick. But it was a good book, and I took a lot from that. I didn't tab it out like all the other books because I hadn't started that yet, but good book. And so one of the things in there was him writing an apology to his employees, and I was like, I'm doing that. And I wrote a letter, to Nade, my CTO. Well, he wasn't really officially the CTO, but he was, that's kind of what I called him. I don't really know what the definition of a CTO was back then, and he didn't really fill that. But anyways, I wrote a letter apologizing to him, explaining to him that where we were was my fault, and that I had never been in my life not been accountable for myself, doing construction, real estate development, none of it. And he and I signed it, and I asked him to sign it, and I said from that day on we were going to be accountable for each other, and I was expected him to step up and be accountable, and I was putting him at that point. I said, I'm going to put you on a salary, not a huge salary, but I'm going to put you on a salary, and I expect you. These are the things I expect moving forward. And when I tell you, this was just a very short 1-page thing, his eyes were popping out of his head. And he didn't last 3 weeks. He couldn't get out of his own way, and I had had enough. And I look at the amount of personal growth and professional growth that I've made in that past 14 months or so to today, and I'm like, holy effing shit. I have just gone so far beyond where I thought I would be. I've done things in artificial intelligence and blockchain. And that I just didn't just couldn't even imagine where I am. Built a network, and all of this. And what I'm starting to realize is that these next 18 weeks, which I reflected quite a bit yesterday, and I worked on the milestone for the next 18 weeks, but I haven't done the mini milestone, and I haven't done my weekly planning, which I'm going to do this morning. I might do it this afternoon, but I might do it this morning. Anyways, I'm going to be consciously deciding where I want to go the next 18 weeks. Where I want to go, where I want my business to go. I'm at a precipice right now. I'm at a very crucial time right now where I have to make a choice. I have to make a conscious choice of certain things. I have a lease that another 5-year lease that I have to sign when the rent is going up, by a third, in 5 weeks. So it's like, do I want to sign that lease? Do I want to be in this business? I look at my building as an asset, right? If I sell it, I lose that asset, but I get cash. I get liquid cash, and it's not a small chunk. It's could be it could be $500,000 in cash. But I also have the equity in the building. That's the point. I have a lot of equity, so it's like, do I want to sign a lease? I'm looking. I've been looking at my finances over the past week, and I just realized yesterday, holy shit! Like, between the new rent that I'm going to be paying, parking, a building that I'm paying for out of the business here, insurances, I pay like $9,500 a month just on those things, right? Almost 10 grand a month just on those core things. I could move my business to my building, have a liquor license, wipe out my credit card debt, which accounts for 1/3 of that $9,500. Not pay rent to somebody else, not have to pay parking, and take out $500,000 out of that building, restructure the loan, take out $500,000 or 400 and something $1,000 out of the building, pay off my credit cards, pay off some of the taxes that I owe in that building, and still have a huge chunk of money left over to build that business over there, um, and have a liquor license as well, which is something I don't have in Boston. And I'm not even sure that the business would be hugely affected by it, because I have people coming from all over the place, all over the country, not only or the region. I had women coming that came down from Vermont to try the experience. Would they have tried it if we weren't in Boston? Maybe not, but there's a high probability they would have. They were driving. So the point being is, I can I can restructure everything, and I can cut what I'm paying in half on that. I'd be paying $4,500, actually $5,000 with the new taxes and assumed insurance. So it'd be like $5,000 a month to take out. You know what I mean? To have $500,000 on that building, and my business would be restructured in my building. And but then I thought, do I want to do that? Is that going to distract me from the review platform, which I intend on building, and I am building? Is it going to distract me from doing the is it going to distract me from doing the museum work that I'm working on, that I'm focusing on, that I'm working on a proposal, which is interesting because Jean reached out to me yesterday as I was going through this. Hey, where are we with things? Are you working on on reviewing things and getting it back to me? I was like, you'll have it tonight, which is today, or first thing tomorrow morning. So the point being is, I have some real decisions to make this week, but it all comes down to, how do I want the next 18 weeks to play out, which comes into 18 weeks, 18 months, 18 years. How do I want those things to play out? And I'm like, I can start over fresh right now. And it's better than starting over fresh, because I'm not starting at ground zero. I have learned so much. I've grown so much. I can start fresh right now. If I decide I'm not going to move the business to Stoughton, if I'm just going to close it and work on Nona Rev and the other, I will have, after everything's paid off and everything, I will have, a several $100,000 cushion, and I can go to consulting. I can consult, part time, 20 hours a week, and more than pay my bills, uh, and I can work on my other projects. And it's like, but I also am afraid of letting that money just sit. I don't want it to disappear, so I honestly want to reinvest it. So I have some real choices to make, and I'm excited about it because I get to do that. And this comes down to being aware. And someone said to me, look at the statistics of this, or look at the statistics of that. Business failures, concept failures, just that, the other thing. And I was like, for the first time, it hit me, like, when you look at the statistics and you let statistics, I hate that damn word, right? It's hard to say, statistics, right? And it sucks. But the point being, when you look at that word and you let that define decisions that you're going to make, you're coming from a fear mindset, not an abundance mindset. You've decided to become a victim. Sorry. It doesn't matter if it's something in your personal life, in your business life, what career, whatever it is. If you decide to let statistics define your choices, like, statistically speaking, I feel like you've failed already. You have gone in with a failure mindset. You have gone in with the failure mindset, a victim mindset, and that is scarcity. You are not looking at things from a point of abundance and optimism. And right there, you've already lost. You're lost. You're done. You just throw in the towel because you're done. So you got to get over that. So anyways, I'm going to end this video because I think it's probably coming up on 30 minutes. I don't even know. So significantly longer than normal. But this was an important day yesterday for me. And it was really good to look back. And I am so grateful that I'm able to reflect for 5 or 6 minutes every morning, every day in writing, and then do these videos in the morning. I don't know if anyone's going to ever watch them, but I will. I'll be able to look back. And I'm so grateful that I'm planning and looking forward. And it's just like, it's amazing. It really is to be able to see the changes. And I am in control, just like you are. We all are in control. And we can all decide how we want our lives to play out. It's really up to you. I mean, the things I've done in the past 18 weeks just blow my mind. I'll do that again because it did. Blew my effing mind. Um, I'm really, I'm proud of myself. I can say that. I am proud of myself. My business might not be financially where it needs to be, but I have grown exponentially. Exponentially. Couldn't even imagine it. I mean, the things that I've done in the past 18 weeks, I could have not, I couldn't reflect back if I hadn't had the actual plans and the paper, the day to day, and the weekly and the 3 week mini milestones. If I didn't have those in place to look back over the past 18-week chunk, I could not have gained the insight of how far I've come. Could not have. So I honestly think it's a necessity to plan. There's no option to plan and reflect, and that's going to keep you on that target. It's a long way off, right? You know, a year is a long time. 10 years is 10 times as long. 20 years is 20x that. But if you have that goal, if you have that vision, it's like, I'm going to get there. And it's just like, but if you're not planning, you're drifting and you're not going to be able to look back and say, how far did I get? So, anyways, don't be a statistic. Plan, okay? Live in abundance. Live with optimism. All right? Every day is a new day. Crush it. I hope that you are up and awake and you are crushing your goals and catching your dreams. All right? And truly, I think, like yesterday was a wake up call for me. It really was. And I'm excited. So I hope you're excited for your life too. And until tomorrow, it's going to be a shorter video. I promise you that. But until tomorrow, hopefully you're having a wonderful day, like I said, and crushing and catching your dreams. Crushing your goals, catching your dreams. Till tomorrow, peace out.